Good morning, everybody. How's it going for you so far? Great, that's what we like to hear. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Gabriel, and it's my honor today to introduce our next plenary speaker. But before I do that, just a couple of announcements. How many of you are new members of IATEFL? Great, thank you very much. Now, are you aware of all the benefits you have for joining IATEFL? Well, if you are not yet aware, let me tell you. You know that you have discounts for events like this. You also get a certificate for every continuous professional development event that we organize and you attend. Yeah, you have to attend for the certificate. Every 2 months, you receive a copy of our flagship publication, Voices. You have access also through your own space in our webpage to the whole archive of IATEFL publications. You can submit a proposal, and we hope to see many of you presenting in Edinburgh next year. And we offer new members, listen to this, old-timers, 15 months for the price of 12. How about that? So today we have a plenary now, but there are a lot of special events throughout the day. I want to give a shout out to two of our sponsors. First of all, Duolingo English Test. They have a pop-up presentation at 11:50 today, and it's called the High Stakes English Test that has disrupted an industry. Interesting, catchy title. Then you find them on stand 1 in the ground floor of the exhibit. But please, remember we have 2 exhibition floors, the ground floor and the first floor, or for Americans, first floor, second floor. Please make sure you go to the first or second floor and visit our exhibitors there. Our next sponsor, to whom we are extremely thankful, is Language Cert. They have a signature event today at 12:05 in Syndicate 1. It's assessment and learning for the digital age. So really, really interesting topic. And of course, you can find them in stand 20 on the ground floor. If you are feeling a little bit of excitement and want some fun this evening, better said, we have 2 wonderful social events. The first one is our social event, Sharing Our Stories, that will happen at 6:30. And if you want a little bit more thrill, at 8 o'clock, we start with our first ever lip sync battle. So we look forward to seeing all of you. And now, if you allow me, I want to say buongiorno, buon pomeriggio o buonasera a tutti i presenti e coloro che stanno guardando dall'estero. Mi è stato assegnato il compito di presentarvi la nostra prossima relatora, professoressa Letizia Cinganotto, and I'm going to go into English now. I thought it was only fitting that presentation on our broader field of English, of language teaching, be introduced in a language that is not English. I have had over the years the honor of inviting many of my colleagues to be plenary speakers at international events. And honestly, I had never experienced a response like the one I got from Letizia. Her response was, "Is this a mistake? Why me?" So Letizia, I didn't answer at the time, but I would like to answer now. So why you? First and foremost, because you were nominated by your peers. And that is, to me, the highest honor we can have in the profession. Secondly, because of your work with the European Center for Modern Languages of the Council of Europe, and your involvement in what is going to be perhaps one of the biggest innovations in our field, the first PISA assessment of English as a foreign language in 2025. That is certainly going to shake things up for us. Also, because of your work as a language pedagogy, language teaching professor at Università per Stranieri di Perugia, where you also hold, you were the delegate for international relations. So we've seen you globetrotting around the world. But perhaps on a personal level, because you're an ITEFL member who has over the years very generously shared all that you know and all that you do, and thus you have enriched our association and our profession. So it is my honor, on behalf of the ITEFL membership, to welcome you to your plenary.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Gabriel, for this wonderful introduction. I'm moved, and thank you, everybody. It's a great pleasure for me to be here today with you. And the title of my topic is Teaching English and Teaching Other Languages, What's New? Of course, is a broad topic, and I would like to discuss it with you, just commenting on some of the snapshots that I've been collecting all over the world in my missions that Gabriel mentioned as rectoral delegate for the international relations of my university, the University for Foreigners in Perugia in Italy. And by the way, Gabriel, congratulations on your Italian. It was wonderful. Yeah. So, first of all, I would like to start with this quotation that I particularly like. The sum of human wisdom is not contained in any one language, and no single language is capable of expressing all forms and degrees of human comprehension. So, the red thread of my talk is going to be like this. English nowadays is essential, is crucial, is fundamental, of course, is necessary, but is not sufficient. As Professor David Crystal said, this multicultural, multilingual world is the natural way of life of 3/4 of the human race. And so nowadays we can say that monolingualism is not anymore a strength, but on the contrary is just a handicap. That's what David Crystal says. And so that's what I can see every day in my university. This is my campus. It's an international campus. We have this mission to spread Italian all over the world. We have students from so many countries, and we can hear them every day speaking so many languages, interacting each other and teaching each other bits of their language and bits of their culture. And so, starting from this experience and my mission to spread Italian all over the world, I'm trying to cover these topics in my talk. Today's educational landscape, the need to embrace constant change, diversity in multicultural classrooms, and reconceptualizing ELT in the new normal. So today's educational landscape, and this leads me to show you some of the snapshots that I've been collecting in my missions. So here you can see a university class in China where there are students from China, but at the same time American students, students from Japan, all together learning Italian, but at the same time using English as a lingua franca. Here you can see some students in Australia using, of course, English as a L1, at the same time learning Italian, peer tutoring, peer lecturing in Italian, and attending an Italian class, an Italian cooking class, and speaking in Italian with, of course, the chef, and they are making pizza, by the way. Here you can see some Indian student teachers and Italian students and teachers together in an exchange program that I coordinated for CLIL, which is one of my passions. And so they were together all the time, sharing views and feelings and emotions in India and in Italy. And in the center, you can see the Scuola d'Italia in New York, the Italian school in New York that I had the pleasure to visit, where visitors are welcome not only in English and not only in Italian, but in so many languages, as you can see in the picture. And so, the keywords of our times. Keywords of our times, just we can say that they come from this international background collected in the latest recommendations and the latest reports by international organizations. And I had the privilege, as Gabriel said, to be involved at international level in many of the groups producing these reports. For example, the Key Competencies Framework 2018, where the second key competence is the multilingual competence, so replacing the one in the foreign languages. And then the 2019 Council recommendation for a comprehensive approach to the teaching and learning of languages. Here we have this strong focus of valuing linguistic diversity and the concept of language awareness, which is so important, so crucial. So the language awareness, linguistic dimension, not only a matter of L1, L2, or exclusively languages, but a transversal dimension of the curriculum in any subject at any school grade. Then the other recommendation, Council recommendation 2022, the importance of plurilingual and intercultural education for democratic culture. Here, once again, these keywords: intercultural education, intercultural dialogue, plurilingual education, which are also the keywords of the Global Competence Framework, OECD PISA 2018. So as you can see there, there's a red thread in all these documents. And last but not least, in this slide, of course, a very important document that I guess is popular not only in Europe but all over the world, which is the Common European Framework for Reference Companion Volume 2020. There's a revised version of the original one, 2001, with a lot of new descriptors, and I was involved in particular in the descriptor of online interaction. And just from this important document, we can say that other important keywords of our times for ELT and of course for teaching English, but at the same time teaching the other language, all the other languages. First of all, the action-oriented approach, which is strictly related to the learning scenarios, the need to create learning scenarios that should be authentic, should be meaningful for our students, so that they have the idea to use the language for meaningful purposes. And at the same time, to have them develop mediation. So mediation of concepts, of context, of ideas, of text, and mediation among different cultures and different languages, so that they can develop their plurilingual competence, pluricultural competence, which are so crucial in our present times. So embracing constant change, we can say that's another very important keyword. And growth mindset is something that I'm sure is common here, everybody here. So educators, language teachers, publishers, material writers, illustrators. We all share this growth mindset that leads us to embrace constant change. And this idea, of course, comes from a long ago, from Heraclitus. There is nothing permanent except change. Change is the only constant. Change alone is unchanging. And just recently, the Nobel Prize Harari, in this famous book, 21st Lessons for the 21st Century, for lesson 19 related to education, says that change is the only constant. And just we can see nowadays with the rapid evolution of AI, and we had the wonderful opening plenary with Vicky, this rapid change which we cannot keep up with. And also Bauman talks about the liquid modern life. I particularly like this concept of liquidity. In a liquid modern life, there are no permanent bonds, and any that we take up for a time must be tied loosely so that it can be untied again as quickly and as effortlessly as possible. When circumstances change, as they surely will in our liquid modern society over and over again. So this concept of liquidity is really fascinating, because it really gives us the idea of this constant change that we are experiencing, of course, in ELT, in teaching other languages, in our daily life in general. And also another important document at international level that I would like to mention is the UNESCO Futures of Education framework, with the concept of learning to become. And once again, become gives us the idea of liquidity, of change, of continuous evolution. This document tries to imagine how knowledge and learning can shape the future of humanity and the planet, looking at our horizon of 2050, so going beyond Agenda 2030. And we can read in this document, no trend is destiny. Multiple alternative futures are possible. A new social contract for education needs to allow us to think differently about learning and the relationships between students, teachers, knowledge, and the world. And so is this social contract, this new social contract, that we should always keep in mind when planning, when teaching English, when teaching other languages, and during our daily life. This is innovation. This is innovation, our growth mindset, and we are all here to embrace innovation. That can be unpredictable, so sometimes we cannot control everything. Sometimes could be messy, could be a bit chaotic, but it's worth trying it because it can be highly rewarding. And that's what we've been experiencing in these latest decades in the field of ELT, in the field of language teaching in general. And I'm just going to mention here some examples with no ambition to be exhaustive of these latest changes, this latest evolution that we are nowadays living. So the multilingual turn, the lingua franca status, the L1 resistance, decentering ELT, the rise of the non-native speaker teacher, the need to interlock English more and more with the employability, the need to break down silos in language lessons in favor of more interdisciplinary, pluridisciplinary, and also multilingual lessons. So diversity in the multicultural classroom is the key feature that I'm sure we all experience in our classrooms. That becoming more and more multi-ethnic, multicultural, multilingual, and it's a treasure for all our learners. It's a mutual enrichment for everybody. And here, this is a picture that I took in India, in at the University of Chitkara in Chandigarh. If you talk to a man in a language he understands, that goes to his head. If you talk to him in his own language, that goes to his heart. And so Nelson Mandela says that we need to go to our students' heart. This is part of our mission, trying always to go to their hearts. And that's why I took this picture in this clay lab, by the way, in Chitkara, that I particularly liked. And that's also UNESCO, by establishing the International Mother Language Day in 1919, just wanted to celebrate the importance of our students' home languages, and that's what we are called to do every year on the 21st of February, to celebrate our students' mother language, home language, or languages. And so from languaging to plurilanguaging, I'm sure that you're familiar with this verb, languaging. So language that has become a verb with the ing form that once again gives us this idea of progression, of continuous, of change, of liquidity, we may say. And now plurilanguaging, because of course the perspective is plurilingual. And plurilingualism focuses on the interrelationships between languages in the social agents' holistic, dynamic, and integrated language repertoire, based on a notion of partial competencies that emphasizes the glass half full rather than half empty, and acknowledges the lack of balance in people's intralinguistics and interlinguistic profiles. And I particularly like this idea of the glass half full rather than half empty, which gives us this positive vibe, let's say, this optimism that leads us to embrace innovation and all this new perspective about plurilingual and multilingual competence. And so plurilingual action-oriented approaches can be easily implemented in our classes, in our ELT classes, in our classes in general, as according to this language awareness keyword, because they are student-centered. They can be embedded in principles of social justice, and they can encourage students to reflect on similarities and differences among languages and cultures in their repertoire and in the repertoire of their peers. They can include critical discussions on language and provide opportunities for students to develop agency and be empowered to use their linguistic and cultural repertoire. And here I'm mentioning Jim Cummins with this famous iceberg metaphor, saying that what actually is important is what lies behind, the common underlying proficiency. So the values, the ideas, the thoughts that our students have in themselves, inside. What comes out is just a matter of surface. It could be in L1, in L2, according to the situation, to the interlocutor, to the social pragmatic context, but it's just surface. And so the important thing is to try to value what is inside them. And this leads me to tell you something about this project I was involved in, engaging with linguistic diversity. I had the pleasure within a research project to visit this school in Dublin 15, Scoile Badi Kailini, where so many languages are spoken, and I took these pictures there with quotations from Professor David Little, saying that languages should be taught in relation to one another rather than in isolation. And it's so nice to see in this school how many posters, how many drawings in all the languages spoken in the class. And within this project, I could work with the author of this model, which is also mentioned in the Council Recommendation 2019, the healthy linguistic diet. So in analogy with healthy diet, the idea is to expose our students as early as possible to different languages, different linguistic inputs in as many languages as possible. And once again, here some pictures from this school in Dublin and other schools, but I'm sure there are so many other schools all over the world that implement these policies and these projects. Here there's children singing in different languages and producing artifacts in also, of course, enhancing their cultural background. And Schoolscape there is fundamental to show their language constellation, to value the language of the week. So the students are ambassadors, are teachers of their language for the week, enhancing, of course, their self-esteem. We had the pleasure to implement this project also in Italy on a sample of schools with the help of the authors of the model. We produced wonderful materials for our teachers, like this toolkit, to guide them, to observe the students' linguistic habit, and to help them design effective, healthy linguistic diet learning scenarios. So from plurilingualism to pluriliteracies, and here this is something that Gabriel mentioned, my involvement in the projects of the European Center for Modern Languages of the Council of Europe in Graz. And this definition of pluriliterate learner is the core of the project I'm involved in, which is called Pluriliteracies Teaching for Deeper Learning. A pluriliterate learner is one who has understanding of how language makes thinking and learning work, and has experience in meaning making, problem solving, and being creative in more than one language, a right for all learners. And this is the right we need to guarantee our students to be able to express in their home languages or in the language that they choose, that they want at the moment, and the right to learn as many languages as possible. And this is the project I am involved as ambassador. I'm part of the consultancy team, so we travel all over Europe to spread this model, which is based on this ecology of learning and teaching. So an ecological perspective, including all the stakeholders, to foster our students' deeper learning, which is the ability to transfer knowledge, competence, content from one known context into an unknown one. And so that's what we are doing now. We are reconceptualizing ELT in the new normal, together with all the other languages, and in this unprecedented times after the pandemic, so from the lessons learned that we learned during the pandemic. And here this picture, once again in India, I took in India, welcoming future, which is actually present. And once again, this perspective, this ecological perspective. Here I particularly like this infographic by Tokol because we can see all the different stakeholders involved, and learners and teachers communicating, teaching, and touching each other in this infographic. So all the stakeholders are so important to foster deeper learning. And so as a part of our mission, of course, the student is in the center, and we need to pay attention to his or her positive emotions, relations and empathy, engagement and mindfulness, and try to create the best conditions, the ideal conditions to foster deeper learning and, of course, to guarantee their well-being. So in order to just reconceptualize ELT and try to rethink, reshape this relationship between English and other language, all the other languages, what we could do is to keep an eye on different methodologies and strategies, and I'm going to mention some as part of my activity as a professor of language teaching, but of course with no ambition to be exhaustive. but they can really help us, of course, according to the needs, to our target, and it's just a matter of choice. Of course, socio-emotional learning, the attention on the social and emotional sphere of our students, which is crucial. Then some other methodologies and strategies that I'm sure most of you are familiar with, like task-based learning, project-based learning, phenomenon-based learning, synchronous online flipped learning, cooperative learning, and with some examples just trying to lead us to break down silos in language lesson. And CLIL, which is the one that I like most, I may say, I may confess, just integrating content and language. We can have this CLIL complex. We can have CLIL in English, sort of, in English EMI. We can have CLIL in Lotte, languages other than English, like in Italy. We have CLIL in Italian in my university for international students, but we can have also CLIL in non-verbal communication, sign language that is so empowered by the companion volume of the CFR. And again, methodologies and strategies, oracy as part of literacy, in parallel with literacy and numeracy. So we can foster our students' oracy through a lot of techniques like debate. That is my favorite. I've been working on debate in Italy for a long time. We organize Olympiads and championships in different languages, and it's a great way to foster plurilingualism. Of course, translanguaging. Translanguaging is so helpful in our classes and could be implemented both at strategic, pedagogical level, but also from an instinctive one. In fact, translanguaging is an instinct. It's an instinct because, first of all, it can break down the traditional boundaries of languages, and also because the way we speak, the way we learn, the way we teach is multisensory and multimodal. And so we can say that translanguaging is an instinct. And decentering ELT, I would like to just spend a few words about this. I had a wonderful conversation with Hornby scholars in these days at IATEFL. This is really a good way to contextualize English language teaching that could be applied, of course, to any other languages. And I was launching something like that for Italian, decentering Italian as a second language, as a foreign language. And you can really have the idea that it's crucial to contextualize materials, strategies, technologies, and also local languages are so important to empower English, and the opposite, English is so important to empower local languages. And just a few words about learning technologies and AI. This is my research project. I have the privilege to coordinate my university. Of course, learning technologies and AI are now the elephant in the room. And among the strategies and methodologies, we cannot avoid mentioning them. In my research lab, we created our own AI that is called ID, which is the translation in the acronym of the Italian learning and dialogue in Italian. Students can prompt, international students willing to learn Italian can prompt the machine and pretend to chat or to speak, because there's also text-to-speech speech recognition, voice recognition, and they can pretend to be chatting in a restaurant or with peers or in a job interview. And for us, English is a scaffolding, is a bridge language, because as you can see, when they click on the output, which is in Italian, it's automatically translated into English as a bridge language. And so, what about assessment? What about assessment? Assessment, of course, thanks to the use of AI, may be reshaped in favor of a more and more plurilingual approach. And here I'm happy to share another experience with ALTE, which is the Association of Language Testers in Europe, and I have the privilege to coordinate the SIG on CFR on behalf of my university. And here I'm mentioning this wonderful framework, the ecological model of the learning context. That includes, of course, learning, teaching, and assessment in, once again, an ecological perspective. And ALTE has been working, of course, on the production of a plurilingual assessment construct, and there are already many examples of tests that are plurilingual. I'm sure that you are familiar with some of them. For example, in Austria, there's a test for vocational schools fostering mediation among different languages, or in Uzbekistan for the presidential schools, a test on thinking skills, allowing students to choose the language of the test among 3 languages. So also assessment should be somehow rethought and reshaped. And OECD PISA that Gabriel mentioned, last but not least. I had the privilege to be involved in the definition of the assessment framework of PISA 2025. That's going to be in English, but it's the first step because more will come also in other languages. And just to mention how important also in this framework is pluricultural and plurilingual education. So even if for now in this test the target language is English, but in profiling the learner it's highly considered the pluricultural and plurilingual profile. So just to conclude, I would like to leave you with this wonderful quotation. This picture was taken in another school in the Emirates. Optimism generates hope. Hope releases dreams. Dreams set goals. Enthusiasm follows. And I would like to wish you the optimism and the enthusiasm to make all your dreams for a positive change come true. And thank you very much.